Hi everybody, we are the Chris's and this is the anatomy of a trigger and we're going to give this a go. And maybe we'll have to have other videos too. I don't know because this is a little complicated. So we're going to try and do this. Let's see what happens. Our brain is a crystal ball, or it tries to be. It's a lousy crystal ball. So here's me. I'm a little nervous doing this. And here's my brain back here. It goes further down in the back, but that's good enough. That's my brain. My brain. And let's see if I can do this. Oh, I need that. Okay. And it thinks it's a crystal ball. And I'm thinking about going to a friend's house, let's say. So my brain, trying to be helpful, is going to say, I wonder what's going to happen when we go to our friend's house. And it tries to predict things like, well, what's the weather going to be like? How do we need to prepare? What route are we going to take? Are we taking our car? Are we walking? How are we getting to our friend's house? What might happen along the way? What do we need to bring with us? Right? It's just going to be like, oh my God, we're going to do this thing. What are all the things that could possibly go wrong? What do we need to do? And yes, I know some people's brains don't necessarily think what's going to go wrong, but they still think, how are we going to get there? What do I have to take with me? I'm looking forward to seeing my friend. It's constantly looking into the future, right? So our brain is basically outfitted to think ahead. That's part of its job, right? So our brain acts like kind of a crystal ball. We may not know exactly what we're going to have for lunch with our friend. Oh, but like, let's say I frequently have acid reflux. It's like, oh, what if I eat at my friend's house? I better bring some antacid tablets. Or maybe I already have them in my purse. So I have them in my purse. Oh yeah, don't forget to take my keys and my wallet and my ID for driving or whatever, right? So our brain is constantly thinking ahead. And this is normal. Everybody's brain is constantly thinking ahead. You get a project at work, and it's like, oh, okay, this is due next week. When am I going to work on it? We're forward-facing, looking into the future all the time. So this is normal. Our brain is basically a prediction device. Now, let me hold this. Okay. And it's been doing this, brains, not just my brain, I mean brains in general, have been doing this basically ever since they evolved, right? Ever since brains happened. Brains have been working as a prediction device. We see storm clouds, we think, oh, I better get to shelter, maybe it's going to be a thunderstorm. It's like constantly looking at our environment for things that we need to be prepared for. So all of our senses are constantly on the lookout for these little things that tell us something that we need to prepare for. And this even goes to our autonomic nervous system. If I'm going to stand up, it braces my legs. If I am going to eat, I will start salivating. Our brain is controlling not just our thoughts into the future, but also our metabolism is also future focused. I'm about to eat cake. My brain goes, oh, sweet thing about to come. We're going to prepare for sugar. And it might even start like insulin and things like that well before that food even reaches my mouth. So this is how bodies and brains work together. Our brain and our senses and our thoughts all affect these predictive mechanisms. This is important to know because when we're talking about triggers, triggers are predictions. Triggers are sensory input that our brain now predicts something is going to go wrong. So let's look at that and how that happens. The autonomic nervous system is a physiological master controller for our body's metabolic processes. So the brain and the rest of the nervous system that it hooks up with will try to adjust our metabolism, like we were just saying, right? So the autonomic nervous system is the part we don't have any control over. It's automatic, it's autonomic, right? It's the part we don't have conscious control over. Dun, dun, dun. There's more to see here. It watches for danger signs, right? So it's constantly scanning our environment for problems. It changes our hormones and our neurotransmitters, which are often the same thing, interestingly enough. Like oxytocin in the body is a hormone, but up in the brain is a neurotransmitter. And our autonomic nervous system is constantly trying to conserve energy. So, for example, when we're in panic mode, our body puts all of its energy towards the things needed for panic mode and stops or slows down a great deal the other things that it doesn't need when we're in a panic. So it tries to conserve energy. And that part of our brain basically still thinks it's in the Triassic era, basically, like dinosaur-ish or pre-mammal or ancient prehistoric mammal or things well before human. So there are brain structures we have that are still based basically in prehistoric times. Like no phones, no movies, not even like being able to make fire. Like well before all of that, we're still on all fours. Maybe we're amphibians. I don't know. There's a lot of like conjecture over what happened way back when. Things that we only have fossils for, and we're just like making shit up about. Right? So that's where that part of our brain comes from. It's like, if there's an emergency, it thinks that, I don't know what critters are around in the Triassic era, but let's pretend, some sharp, pointy-toothed dinosaur is going to chomp on our tail, and that's what our autonomic nervous system is thinking about. Like, is this thing going to bite me? Am I going to be food? Am I eating or going to be eaten? And that's basically about how smart that part of our brain is. So am I chasing this thing to eat it, or am I running away from this thing because it wants to eat me? That's where it is. So we have these talks called Better Spoons, and we did that at the Plural Positivity World Conference, and this is going to be an extremely brief version of that. Or we have Developing Better Spoons on pluralityresource.org, which is based on the same teachings, but a much longer course. So here we go. Here we have our metabolism. And you can see that going up and down, as labeled on the right, we have activation. The higher up, the more activated our nervous system is. The lower down, the more conserving, I guess, our nervous system is. The more like low-key, we're like in kind of a still state. So activated is a lot of motion, a lot of activity, a lot of energy, and down towards the bottom is kind of like either low energy or chilling or hanging out or not so good, but not able to move and stuff like that. So here we go. This is our felt sense of our metabolism. Okay, we're going to start to describe it from this place of peace. Oops. Hey, don't move that. Okay, there we go. All right, we're going to start from this place here. Peace. Peace. Hey, let's use another color. All right. Yeah, we'll use red. Okay. Peace. Peace out. When we're at peace, we're like on the yoga mat and we're like meditating. We're like, oh, this is so cool. I'm chilling. I'm hanging out. And nothing's really going on much in terms of panic or passion. We're just like hanging out. And that's a nice place to be briefly. But when we get into life, we gotta like, have more energy than that. If we are, let's say, faced by a deadline and we're starting to worry about it, we're going to start going in this direction. We're getting worried. Oh, nope, that deadline's definitely coming. Oh, no, wait. It's looking like I'm going to be late at that deadline. Oh, no, I'm really late. I've got too many deadlines. I am freaking out. Okay, so this is when we are going into panic mode. That Triassic era part of our brain does not understand that a deadline is not a dinosaur. So it thinks, as we're getting worried and as we're getting concerned and we're thinking, oh no, I'm going to be late for my deadline, they're thinking, something's about to chomp my tail. I had better either run or hide or bury myself in the sand or like run up a tree, whatever. Like, I got to get out of here because something is coming to chomp my tail. So that's what our body thinks is going on. So we get up to this point here. This is like when we are in absolute panic mode. Panic. Rah! We're like totally messed up. Okay, somewhere around here we're probably frantic. Here we're really afraid and anxious. Like here's worry. We have all like these words to describe all of this stuff, but basically we get to this point, and if we keep pushing ourselves past the point of panic, like even though I am totally freaking out, my brain really wants to narrow my scope of vision to just focus on the thing that I'm panicked about, just focus on this deadline and this project that's like an alligator about to bite my tail. So everything's shutting down. We're expending a tremendous amount of energy just on this thing to solve this one problem. And that's how our brain and body work. Our brain and body want to focus on this problem, make the problem go away so that we can come down from here. But modern day is kind of running our whole life and our business life and our work life in this mode. So this mode is actually like the daily norm. The news keeps us in fear. Everything is keeping us on this fear, panic side of the spectrum, even if it's just down here and we're in worry land or something. We pump more caffeine into our body, which triggers certain brain receptors and gives us more and more panic energy, and it makes us more anxious. And, the whole society is running basically in this red line area. When we push ourselves too far, we keep going this way here, right? We're in overwhelm at this point. We're like losing it and expending lots and lots of adrenaline energy and trying to push past our absolute limit, which is somewhere around this place, right? Then we start to fall. This fall is where we get to burnout. Burnout is down here, like absolute rock bottom burnout. But we can be anywhere along this line too. We don't have that many words for that line, but we can be in the falling, dropping off, way too overwhelmed, energy starting to flag, like starting to feel hopeless. Okay, this is where we lose hope, basically. And when we have absolutely lost all hope, we land in rock bottom. Dark night of the soul, and so on. I want to select a different color because there is something that happens to people that's a little different than this. Is like some people will start to take off from peace and they get to this worry point and they don't go high, they just go low. And these are people that tend towards depression. So they'll have, their departure point can be anywhere along this line, you know. So somebody might make it here and then go depression, or here and then go depression. But basically, there are people that never make it all the way up to the top of this frantic point, and their departure point towards losing hope and depression is earlier in this cycle. But these are still all bad word. These are all natural processes, but they're undesirable processes. We don't want to do this. We don't want to run our life on the daily on this side. We really want to only use this side when there is a tiger that is about to bite our tail, or there's things like, you know, an emergency, right? This is the side we want to be on when there's an emergency. Like a real emergency, not a deadline, not a late school paper. That's not an emergency, not really. We really want to be on this side when it's a physical life or death emergency, when our life is threatened. And I know that there's a lot of wiggle room in defining that, and you're going to have to define that for yourselves. I can't really judge what is or is not a real physical emergency for you. Like we were on the verge of eviction, and we were running in this mode like totally 100%, and trying to pack and prepare for homelessness, and that we felt was a true physical pure emergency, and that's where we were running our life, and that's our brain will do this to us. And, you know, in retrospect, maybe it would have been better had we not run that part of our life in this emergency mode and lose hope and push ourselves beyond this diagram here, like, and end up homeless, rather than thinking, how can I get out of this? Who can I, you know, get help from? How can I stop this from happening? We just like, oh no, we're about to lose our home and packing all our shit. So, yeah, anyway. So, we don't have to think of this as the only alternative being living our whole life in this moment of peace in order to avoid all of this other stuff. It's really hard to live life in that peace mode. Because it's like so low key and so low energy and stuff, and like, how do you get anything done when you're like sitting here in this peace mode? So we have another mode that we can go into, which is passion or pursuit or desire or want. When we are chasing something we want rather than running away from something we don't want. And that side, well, I'm sorry, let me try that again. Okay. Okay. Both of these kind of like run low first, but, you know, bad drawing. So on this side, we have I want, I would like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, maybe enthusiasm and all these like different points that we have words for: desire, love, and so on. So this is the love, want, needs probably down here. This is passions, like my life passion, creativity, and so on, is like all on this side of the diagram where we actually want things. And the fact that creativity is over here is quite important, because the other side of the diagram, the fear, panic side, is not very creative. We will tend to do things the same way over and over again, or not be able to think our way out of a paper bag, because our brain literally limits our options so that we can focus on the problem. If there's a dinosaur chomping at my tail, I do not have to think, of some new tasty thing to make for my tribe for dinner. Not right now. I just don't have to do that right now. Like, I've got this dinosaur chomping at my tail. I gotta run. Run, hide, play dead, or whatever, right? So all of the panic reactions are on this left-hand side of the diagram, and all the love, desire, want, oxytocin-ish stuff is on the right-hand side of this diagram, with some caveats. There are oxytocin-mitigated panic reactions that try to preserve social bonds and, things like Stockholm syndrome and the fawn response and stuff like that. So, yeah. Anyway, worthy of note here is we can have too much of a good thing and crash on this side too, which is what happens to people who have bipolar and get mania and go a little too high on this side of things, and like, I have all the things, I want all the things, I love all the things, I'm so creative, blah blah blah, and then they go off they fall down on the other side, and they end up in basically the same place as here. So there's too much of a good thing in both directions. Okay, we talk much more about this in Better Spoons, so we're going to move on. And I forget what the next slide is. The brain-body connection. What did we say here? We have bullet points, so thank goodness we left ourselves a trail, because I don't remember what we're talking about here. Okay, our nervous system is predictive, like we said in the first slide. So we have this crystal ball, and our nervous system is constantly looking ahead to see what is going to happen. Triggers are stored in both our brain and body. So where are triggers stored? Triggers are stored in nerve ganglia. So it's not just in our brain. So this is an interesting thing. So a lot of times PTSD is described as a mental health issue, but it's not. This is actually a physiological issue. It's both brain and body, or it's our perceived sense of mind, but it's actually physical, is probably the better way of putting it. And it's really interesting because doctors and medical people will not deal with PTSD and shove you at psychology, when psychology is finding more and more that this stuff is actually body-based. So then we get these people in this hybrid area called somatic therapists, or somatic therapy, where they're actually dealing with this brain-body connection. So where are the triggers stored? They're stored in the brain stem, the part right above our spine. So they're in the brain stem, they're in the amygdala, which is a part of our older part of our brain. They are in our several nerve ganglia along the spine, the vagus nerve, and so on. So, for example, if I reach out to touch something and my body the heat receptors in my hand starts to feel that it's hot before I even touch it, my spine is not even my brain, my spine is already bracing to pull my hand away because it might be too hot. So it's like I'm already predicting, because I feel heat as my hand is getting closer, that this thing might be too hot and I might have to pull my hand away. So that's a trigger. It's not a trauma trigger, but it's a trigger. And it's stored in my spine. So all of the different sensory information we're constantly scanning out of our environment actually ends up leaving triggers in various areas of our brain and body. So like basically I would suppose there might even be triggers, let's say along the optic nerve, or at least the optic processing part. So the raw data comes into the brain, and then next door to the where that comes in, there's a place that actually interprets that information. Like I see lots and lots of red all bundled together. I'm looking across the room. And I have an aloe vera plant in a red pot. So there's a part of my brain that just says, oh, red thing this shape. And then next door to it, there's a place that says, oh, that's the pot. That's the pot for the plant. And actually interprets that data. So the triggers can be stored in various areas of our brain and body, and it's not all just in one place. It's actually weirdly scattered. So trauma reactions are not just mental, they're actually physiological, physical reactions. So my brain, a great example is our coffee trigger. So our brain will smell coffee, it goes to the smell interpretation spot. The smell interpretation spot says, oh shit, amygdala, we smell coffee. And the amygdala goes, oh shit, we smell coffee. And then it sends a signal to my body to raise our adrenaline, like that, like neurotransmitters, blah, blah, blah. All these things go out, and our body is already like, before we were like even thinking, oh shit, I'm smelling coffee, I should probably get out of here. It's like some part of our brain is already like tingly skin and, starting to feel that jangling nerve thing going on. That's like the very start of an adrenaline spike. And it's like, why am I feel? Oh, I smell coffee. And that's it. That's all we got on this page, I think. Yeah, I think so. Okay. So trauma reactions are not only mental, they're also kind of physical. Or the effects are mental, but the body's there. The body's involved. The body's got like a big part of this. And so if somebody's just like telling you, just get a hold of yourself, just get a grip, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, they're wrong. They're wrong. Period. That's it. Done. Next slide. So what is a trigger? A trigger is anything, we'll talk about anything in a moment. A trigger is anything that sets off an autonomic nervous system reaction of any type. Yeah. So you'll hear people talk about asthma triggers. You hear people talk about migraine triggers, right? Or we can have immune system flare triggers, right? So these are all autonomic nervous system triggers. They're just triggering different physiological issues based on the trigger. The trigger is anything that might cause an autonomic nervous system problem. Okay, so I go outside, it's spring, let's say I have a pollen allergy, I get exposed to the pollen allergy, now I'm coughing, sneezing, itchy eyes, and all this stuff. That's a trigger. Pollen is a trigger for my allergies. Allergies are the reaction to the trigger. And what that allergy is various immune system responses, which are autonomic, right? So various immune system responses to what my body sees as a threat. So my body sees pollen as a predictor of certain threat. And so my body starts mobilizing different ways of fighting the pollen. So the pollen is an allergy trigger for me, right? I have MCAS along with my EDS, so I have urticaria. Exercising in the cold is one of my triggers. Why my histamines get triggered by cold and exercise mixed together, I don't know. They haven't really well explained these things, but there they are. The hives are on my legs, and that is a sign that my nervous system, and in this case it's the mast cells, which are extremely primitive part of this system, but they are releasing histamines and doing their thing because they think this is really dangerous. They think, oh my God, it's cold and you're exercising. Ah! And they throw their hands up in the air and they start releasing, histamines. They freak out. I don't have any control over this. So a trauma trigger is very similar. We don't have any control over it. We don't have control over the fact that, I'll just stick to our own triggers instead of making stuff up. So we don't have any control over coffee being a trigger. Other than either we have the trigger or we are learning ways to resolve the trigger. But we can't just I'm not gonna react to coffee today. I can't just decide, oh yeah, I'm gonna hang out in this diner and I'm not gonna let the coffee bother me. No, it doesn't work that way. So still my autonomic nervous system freaks out when the waitress or waiter comes over with the coffee and asks if they want a refill, and still waving that whole pot of coffee under my nose. That's still going to freak me out. I can power through it and I can sit there and tolerate it, but my anxiety level is still going to be going from a 0 to a 1 to a 2 to a 3, maybe a 4 before, I'm not quite at the point of I got to get out of here. But if I walk into a Starbucks, then it's oh no, I gotta go. I can't. Yeah. So, okay. So anything. What is anything? So it could be an event. This is how people get traumaversaries, right? It can be an event, an object, a smell, a person, a specific individual or a type of individual. It can be a sound and so on. Okay. Anything basically sensory, but sensory including temporal, location, you can be in a place and so on. So it doesn't have to be see, hear, smell, taste, touch. Is that right? So yeah, I think so. Okay. So it doesn't have to be the 5 senses. It could be any sensory thing. Even thoughts can be triggers. So yeah, let's move on. I think we're at the diagram. Yes, it's the diagram. Okay. So this is an actual timeline, as you can see on the bottom of this. Time going from now into the future, and then the level of activation. So where the other diagram was about our metabolism, this one is actually about an event that happens that we end up getting a trigger from. Okay. Make sure I got the right tool. Okay, so here we are. Say we've never really taken on trauma. This person does not have PTSD. Not as of yet. So they're just chugging along. Oh, maybe I will... I'll get another color. All right, let's use blue. Blue. Okay. All right, so they're just chugging along this timeline, going about their business. Everything's fine. And then, okay, we will talk about the dinosaurs. Okay, so the dinosaur is going about its business. Everything is fine. And then all of a sudden there's a rustling in the bushes. Oh, that could be a sign of something dangerous. They're getting a little activated. A little rustling in the bushes, and, it settles down. Oh, another rustle in the bush. They're getting activated. Oh no! It's a thing, and it's gonna bite me. And let's say they do. They just get bit. Okay? Meep. They get bit. The thing loses hold on them. They run away. Alright, they're like coming down. They run away. They manage to get back to their cave. They're freaked out. They're panicked. Okay, poor little dino. That dinosaur has taken on some PTSD and is now hypervigilant. Okay, now they get bit. This is like, youch. Okay, and this is like rustling. Okay, got a couple of points where there's just rustling in the leaves. Here's where they get chased. All right, and then this is where they get free. And then they get back to their cave. And they're just freaked out. Okay, this is how we acquire triggers. Okay, so here is the actual event. But what happens is, somewhere around here, anytime after, our brain and body continues to go back to this and obsesses over it. It will like memorize. Okay, so our autonomic nervous system will actually memorize this, basically all of this stuff here that happened, probably all the way up till like something like that, like this whole section of shit. Well, I mean, it'll include the whole thing, but it'll really focus in on this. Like, I don't ever want this to happen again. So during our convalescence stage, after the fact, our brain and body roll over this this section and basically encode this, all of these, hearing the rustling, feeling being chased, how the wind was that day, what berry patch we were in, trying to eat, or like all of the things. It will like ingrain this into our body to reinforce its own hypervigilance, right? So this is what we are being vigilant about. Like, what sensory information are we informing this vigilance by? It's this. It's all of the things that happened in this section here, right? All of this, including before the event happened, right? So it includes, let me get another color. It includes this. So it could be all these innocuous things. The berry bush isn't to blame for the dinosaur chasing me. The location that I was in for that berry bush, the fact that it was sunny or breezy or cloudy or rainy or haily or whatever had nothing to do with it, but it's still going to be part of that memory. And when all of these factors in here that are memorized start to add up, this hypervigilance on the other end will start to escalate. And we may not even realize it. So it's like, oh, it's a sunny day again. Oh, we're near that berry patch. Oh, It's another rustle in the bushes. Oh, but look, see, the first time we were rustling, we were down here, and now this time, the rustling, we're up here. So this is how we actually acquire triggers. The breeze rustling the bushes, or is that a dinosaur rustling the bushes? Was that dinosaur also attracted to this berry patch, or was the berry patch, not anything to do with it? We don't know, and we can't tell our brain and body to, like, forget all of these things here. Like, no, that's just, we can't do that easily. We can, but it's not easy. There's a trick to it. And I'm not sure if we're talking about it in this video yet. Okay. That may be a next video to talk about how we get it to let go of those things. We'll see. Because this is getting long already. And we're hungry. So, this is where we get triggers. And this is why triggers make no sense sometimes. Because it's like, well, geez, what do the berries have to do with the dinosaur chasing me? Why can't I ever eat those berries again? But now our body is, like, freaking out. Like, no, you're never going to have those berries again. You're going to find some other food source. So, okay, so this is kind of an important point, okay? And this can be a plural issue, or it can be a singular person with CPTSD, PTSD issue. But, so this is what happens when we get triggered, when we get, like, seriously trauma triggered. So, here I am, and I am thinking about going to my friend's house. And I am happily, attached to the thing. But anyway, I know what to do. There we go. Okay, here I am thinking about going to my friend's house, and I'm, like, prepared, and I got all my stuff with me, and I already, like, packed my bag, and blah, blah, blah. And here I am, I'm on my way to my friend's house, and, here, we'll make some room. And what happens is I start thinking ahead. What if my friend's not happy to see me? What if my friend ridicules me or shames me? Ooh, now I'm not happy. I'm feeling ashamed and sad, and I don't want to go to my friend's house anymore because these thoughts have happened, right? This could happen because a headmate is telling me that they don't like me, or it could happen just because I'm a singular person and I just have these feels, and there's this part that feels ashamed and so on. And so I don't want to go to my friend's house anymore. Something has stopped me. Something has put up this wall between me and the friend's house and said, stop, it's dangerous. Don't do it. You might get ridiculed. You might get shamed. You don't want to go there. You don't want to put yourself at risk, right? So this is where it's no longer the dinosaur is going to bite you and this is really seriously dangerous and you might die. This is where we get to how modern issues still end up being programmed into our body, just as if they are like, don't eat the poison berry, don't go back to the place where you got chased last time, and stuff like that, where it's no longer a physiological threat, but it's still taken on as a physiological threat by our brain and body. So our whole nervous system is screaming at us to stop and not put ourselves at risk by going to our friend's house and not being potentially, possibly, could be, maybe ridiculed, but we can't do it. So we have this social anxiety or this panic attack around going to our friend's house because we're afraid that maybe, possibly something is going to happen when we go there. We can't just power through that because our brain and our body, the closer we get to our friend's house, the higher the anxiety gets, right? Or if any other factors align. But but last time it was a sunny day and we went to our friend's house and we felt triggered, or we felt ridiculed, or we felt ashamed. So why are we going to go back to our friend's house on another sunny day and possibly get, it can be to the point where it doesn't seem rational, but it is, because it's physiological, and our body and brain are putting all of these different things together, and we may not even be aware of all of those triggers. We don't remember that it was a sunny day, but our body remembers. We don't remember that it was February and it was X cold and windy and whatever, but our body remembers. And so we have a lot of trouble around, these potentially innocuous things that our brain and body have memorized and told us, no, this is dangerous, don't do it. And sometimes it's a headmate, and they're like, oh no, you're not going over there again. Remember last time we went there, so-and-so said such and such, and that really felt bad, and I don't trust them anymore, and we are not going back to their house ever again. And so it could also be a headmate that does this to us. So that's important to know. Now, I don't remember what I was going to say on this slide, so let me think. Do we want to just end it and do the rest in another video? Or do we want to talk about it now? Okay. We're going to do a very quick, and maybe we'll do a longer video about it later. So we'll do a quick one. Okay, because we didn't even put a label on this one. Okay. Prediction errors. How does the brain learn? The brain learns usually, or relearns, something that is wrong about by having a prediction error. So, all right, let's use this last example. I'm going to go to my friend's house, blah, blah, blah. Let's say I'm only low-level anxiety by that, okay? Maybe it's not that friend that was the issue. It was another friend, and it was a similar sunny day. And so it's like, but this friend has never done anything to us. Let's go. And so we go, right? Now, let's say that friend meets us at the door and is so happy that we're there, right? Like thrilled to death. They greet us with a hug and a big smile, and they're just like, wow, it's so great to see you. I'm so glad you came, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that part of our brain that was anxious, like, oh, what if they don't want us to come, blah, 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 is like, hey, wait a minute. That part of our brain goes, holy crap, they really wanted us to be here. They really, it's so obvious. They're overjoyed that we're here. And that part of our brain goes, goes, what? What's going on? And that opens up learning. That part of our brain that goes, but anytime we go to a friend's house and it's this kind of a day and blah, 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 we're going to get ridiculed. That part of our brain goes, wait a minute, it's that kind of a day, and we went to a friend's house, and they are so obviously overjoyed, I must be wrong about my prediction. So that part of our brain opens up that pathway for learning something new. Maybe it didn't have to do with the type of day. Maybe it didn't have to do with going to a friend's house. Okay, so which of these pathways am I going to overwrite? And it will choose, the ones that are activated already. It is this type of day and I'm going to a friend's house pathway might very well get opened up to relearn something new about those circumstances. So that brain pathway opens up to learning something new. Now, just because it's open doesn't mean it learns anything. So if immediately after being greeted like that by my friend just goes, goes inside the house, we both go inside, and then the friend is just like totally chilling out and not so enthusiastic, and we're having, normal conversations about difficult topics or, playing games or whatever it is that we're doing, the brain opened it up and then it shuts again. Like, there's no further evidence that this person really, really, really wanted us there, then the brain will shut again and be like, yeah, maybe that was just a one-time show of affection kind of thing. I don't know, anomaly, blah, blah. But if that friend continues to tell us how overjoyed they are and show us real signs of joy, then again, then the brain's going to go, all right, this is not an anomaly. This is like real learning. I can't spell repetition, but that's okay. Okay, I was about to say repeat, and yeah, whatever. Anyway, you get it. Repetition. Do it again, real learning. All right. So once we've opened up for learning from the prediction error, opening up learning, the repetition of that new fact, joy, 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 happy, joy, joy, then the brain goes, I learned something new. Maybe I was wrong all along. Now, this doesn't change the memory of whatever was that caused that prediction in the first place. It doesn't say that one time you went to your friend's house and they ridiculed you. It doesn't take that out. It does take the autonomic nervous system prediction of whenever we go to a friend's house and it's sunny and blah, 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 this will happen. That goes away. So the prediction goes away. The activation based on that goes away, which means now we feel maybe more free to go and visit friends because on sunny days, because it's like, oh, well, it didn't have anything to do with that. It didn't have anything to do with it being a sunny day and visiting a friend that we were ridiculed. So that part of the prediction goes away, if that makes any sense. So this is the important part for resolving triggers, is to introduce some type of prediction error. And there's a lot of ways to do that happen in many different types of therapy and by accident sometimes, like this time in theory that I went to a friend's house and they were just overjoyed and really showing how much they enjoyed me being there over and over again. Then it may have resolved that trigger. So now I don't feel the same level of anxiety just because I'm going to a friend's house and it's sunny out, if that makes sense. So when triggers get resolved, it is thought to be because of this. And let me add a slide to tell folks what this is. It's called memory reconsolidation. And that is it is the fact of how brains learn applied to the autonomic nervous system triggers that have been learned around trauma. So the memory reconsolidation is the whole idea, but we're using it for triggers to help I like resolve triggers. It's a little bit of an art to do it on purpose. It can happen by accident, so it can happen spontaneously. It is how many types of therapy work on the back end. So it's the back end of how triggers are resolved by therapy. So it's not really the method. The method is the tool. But what's going on in our brain is memory reconsolidation. And it's a predictable process. But it's not always a reliable process. Because it's tricky. Make another slide. So, for memory reconsolidation, to do it on purpose, you want to, number one, know what the prediction is. Two, introduce a prediction error. And three, repeat the learning. How do you know when you have a prediction error? That's an aha moment. Surprise. That's how we feel it as lived experience is, aha, what? Oh, gobsmack moment, paradigm shift, and so on. It's the aha, surprise moment, and so on. The important thing that we often don't do when we have those moments is to repeat the learning. And we have about a 4-hour window to 5-hour window to repeat that learning. So journaling, going through an exercise more than once, or continually reminding yourself for the next couple of hours about the aha moment or paradigm shift can help it stick. Now, the prediction is not always, this is any prediction. It doesn't have to be a trauma prediction. This is how the brain learns things, right? This is a form of learning on a neurological level. So this does not necessarily have to be a trauma issue. It can be any issue. Like, if somebody said all mushrooms are poisonous, and then you learn about button mushrooms and shiitake and all that, then you'd be like, oh, what? What do you mean not all mushrooms are poisonous? What do you mean these mushrooms are safe to eat? Blah, blah, blah. And so you'd have that moment, and your brain would then learn something new. Learns, oh, okay, the associative area of my brain that logs mushrooms can now know that some of them are edible. So these are ways that we learn anything. Not necessarily how we learn everything, but it's a good way to learn anything is to correct incorrect information in the brain. But this does work with triggers. So knowing the prediction is that stop moment where the brain says, no, don't do that. That's dangerous. And figuring that out, which takes some figuring out. It takes a bit. Then figuring out a way to to have that aha surprise moment, and then the repetition. And this is the predictable part of how to resolve triggers, or to resolve trauma triggers, and so on. So, dun da da. There's a lot of other processes that are based on this. Like, we know somebody is doing like allergy therapy stuff, and they give you a very low dose of whatever it is. Allergies are triggers, right? So they're trying to teach your body. The prediction is your body is going to say, oh no, that substance is terribly dangerous for us and we have to reject it. And then introducing the prediction error, well, this teeny tiny low dose couldn't possibly be that dangerous. It's not going to kill us. And so the body is trying to be trained to say, oh, wait, that isn't deadly. And then repeating it. Like, it's not just a one dose thing. You know, when they do this therapy, they do this therapy over and over again. So that therapy is actually working on trying to teach the body and brain that substance is not actually poison, and you don't have to act like it is. And so on. So this is a process that we'll see in EMDR, in EFT, ART. We see this when things are successful, basically, it's following this path, that there was an aha moment, and it was repeated and it resolved something. So, but these are ones that try to do this on a more predictable basis. They try to do this memory reconsolidation with their own little dogma involved. But that's the underlying process going on in the brain that actually works. So it's the tools that are doing the method, but the brain is doing the reconsolidation. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So what we're learning in our trauma work courses is a bunch of different ways to trigger these prediction errors and to figure out the prediction and repeat the learning and stuff. So we're learning more about reliable methods of introducing prediction errors and figuring out the prediction so that we can produce a reliable prediction error, so that we can fix this underlying issue. I hope that helps. This has been a very long thing. So we're going to say goodbye. Bye, goodbye. For now. And take great care of yourselves.